Hey everyone, welcome to the Hummingbot monthly developer call. I see a few people on. So it's from our team. We have me, I'm Mike, CEO of Hummingbot, Jack, and also Dune. We'll probably start in about 5 minutes after everyone has a chance to join. So please hold on for about 5 minutes. Thanks. Yeah, in the meantime, if you guys have any questions that you want us to cover during the call, please put them in the Zoom chat, and we'll try to cover them during this meeting. Okay, so why don't we get started? Since and then people can join. So just as an introduction, this is the monthly Hummingbot developer call. We started this last time, so this is only the second time we've done it. But overall, what we're trying to do is, every single release, we're kind of like we're going to do this call at the day of every release. So tonight we're going to release Hummingbot 0.32. So first, what we'll do is go over the developer related changes in this release, and then we'll kind of give you guys a preview of what's like kind of what we're working on in the next release that might affect developers, and what you guys are what you may have to take into account. And thirdly, then we'll just take questions from the audience in terms of upcoming changes, the Hummingbot roadmap, any kind of like things we're doing to accommodate and make life easier for developers. And that's about it. So why don't we get started? So before I start, so can everyone see my screen that I've shared? Okay, I assume you guys can. So 0.32, we have this connector. This release was really focused on improving how connectors work for Hummingbot. So lately, we've seen a surge of interest from exchanges to integrate into Hummingbot. So we're trying to make it easier for people to do that. And so So part of this release, we integrated it in the Bitfinex connector, and the Bitfinex connector, it also uses the new design that we have now for connectors, which was refactored in the last version. In addition, we also integrated in the new loop ring connector, which was created by a third-party firm called Link, and overall, we're starting to work more with third-party firms who are building connectors on behalf of exchanges. So we anticipate that Link and other of our partners will be working on not just this connector, but they'll be building and maintaining future connectors for Hummingbot going forward. And we have a number of firms like that. And this is actually one reason why we're kind of moving to this model now, where we're working with third parties. So so besides those two connectors, we also added a new feature that allows people to really control how their orders are created. So right now, users are asked to they can only create orders a certain way. They have to specify the spread, the order amount, the number of order levels, and so forth. But for advanced users, they've asked for more ways to customize exactly how the orders are placed. So now, if you turn on this order override parameter, you can just create an array of objects in the configuration file, and say, I want to place this one order at this spread and this amount, another order at this other spread and this other amount, and just essentially control tightly exactly what the orders are. Another kind of new parameter we added is lately we've added a lot of customization that allows people to control what the price they're using to do market making is. Whether that price is the mid price from the current market, or the mid price from another market entirely, or the last trade in this market, or the last trade in another market. So so some users have asked for the ability to use the last trade of the last trade they did as a reference price for the next orders they put. So we added that as an option as well to reference price, so that people can really control what price they're using to control this price. Finally, another feature that people have asked a lot is the ability to change a lot of these parameters without stopping the bot. So in this release, we've made many more parameters of the pure market making strategy configurable on the fly. So now you can change order amount, order levels, spread, and other parameters without using the stop command. And I think this is something that a lot of users have asked for. We have a new command in this release called ticker. The ticker command will basically specify a certain market's like orders, and just basically summarize what those prices are for about 10 seconds. And this command is actually really helpful for our support team to match what's happening on the Hummingbot side to what's happening on the exchange side. But we thought that it would also be good for users just to be able to use it as well if they want. Finally, we have some developer-focused changes. A big change that we made as part of this release was to remove a lot of the tasks that were required in the task 4. So this is when we tell people what they need to do for Hummingbot connectors. There's 4 tasks they need to perform, and so in this release we've removed a lot of the tasks required in task 4 because we kind of contained them in the connectors themselves. I'm actually not sure if the documentation matches this yet, but if not, we will get it updated in this release. But overall, I think if you guys are going to be working on a connector, or starting to work on a connector, please reach out to us on Discord so we can tell you kind of what you need to do, and maybe what parts of the documentation are out of date, so you don't spend time working on stuff that you don't need. in addition, there's a few other kind of like, changes related to kind of like, other strategies and bug fixes you might want to be aware of. This will be published as part of the release notes when we ship Hummingbot later today, around probably the evening US time or the morning Asia time. So those are the main changes in this release, in the new release, in the 0.34 and 33 release, the big kind of like change is what we're doing in terms of protocol connectors. So in the Hummingbot roadmap, let's see. So we have the 0.32 stories in this column here. And we're currently working on a bunch of stories related to protocol connectors. So let's see. So within the pull request, you'll probably see some information related to like AMM arbitrage. So what we're doing there is we're building a separate kind of like extension onto the code base that allows Hummingbot to interact with different blockchain protocols. So we already have something like that for Ethereum, but we're adding the ability to integrate into other blockchains like Celo and Terra and other feature ones as well. And in general, what we're trying to do is integrate with protocols in the same way that Hummingbot currently integrates with exchanges, because we believe that decentralized exchanges are starting to really pick up volume, as we're seeing in Ethereum, and the being able to kind of cross the chasm and trade on both decentralized exchanges and centralized exchanges really opens up a lot of arbitrage opportunities and cross-exchange market making opportunities that users can take advantage of. So so we believe that by building the first few kind of protocol connectors like this, we can define a standard, and then eventually people can build connectors to any protocol in the same way they're building connectors to any exchange right now for Hummingbot. But that's a pretty big change, and so that's why I think the bulk of the work we'll be doing in the 0.33 release will be focused on kind of like setting the foundation for these protocol connectors, and then building the first 3 of them, which will be the first one will be kind of integrating in the Celo connector, the Celo strategy we already have, and building a connector for that. And also we're working with 2 other protocols, Balancer on the Ethereum side, and then Terra as well, to do something similar for that. So those will be the first 3 like protocol connectors. But then going forward, hopefully, because it'll be open source, anyone can then add a connector to any protocol for Hummingbot. So in addition, I do want to call out, so we do have a number of pull requests right now from external contributors. So we have a user who is, I think it was on the last developer call, has created a connector for Bitstamp. So that's outstanding. Another year, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm here, sorry.
You are, okay.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Hey, how's it going? And then another user has created a connector for Binance US. This is actually something that we're going to work on in this current release, but for Binance US, it's actually not a new connector. It's basically kind of reusing the existing Binance connector, but changing the APIs to match what Binance US has. So there's some UI UX work that we're going to have to do in this release to make that work. But I think we will be able to get the Binance US connector merged in as part of the next release. In addition, a developer from Celo has built the Ocx connector. This connector we will merge in as well as part of this release, primarily because in the last governance votes, we said we would merge in all 3 of the first 3 connectors into Hummingbot. And so we're just kind of fulfilling our promise there by working on merging in the Ocx connector. So, and then we do have some older connectors that people have submitted. Kyber, which probably needs some updates. and HitBTC, which also probably needs some updates and refactoring as well. So overall, I would say I think the connectors that we're going to merge in and we're going to basically get done during this current next release will be Binance US, mainly because it's a more of a core foundational change, and also OKX because of governance. The connectors that we're going to kind of enter into the governance process and let the community kind of decide whether we merge them in or not, and how soon we merge them in, will be Bitstamp and HitBTC. So and the reason we're doing this is because, to be honest, I would love to get all of these merged in as fast as possible. However, our team is limited, and we kind of have to kind of prioritize certain connectors. So to be fair to all the connectors, I would say ideally we want to put all the connectors through some type of governance process in the future. But right now we're kind of trying to manage the transition where there's certain connectors which are low-hanging fruit and easiest for us to get done, like Binance US. There's other ones that we kind of essentially, because of governance, we prioritize ahead of others. But then, so that's why we kind of have to use governance to kind of to prioritize Bitstamp and HitBTC and other ones that, we're very grateful for all the work people have done to write these connectors. And I think they will. Sorry, was that a question? Okay, sorry. Yeah. So as I was saying, basically, it's kind of what we're trying to do is just prioritize how much bandwidth we have to allocate it to reviewing and merging connectors. But overall, I do think that for both HitBTC and Bitstamp, it'll just be a matter of time. And I'm hopeful that as we kind of present them to the community, people will vote for them, and we'll get them merged in pretty soon. So before we move on, do you guys have any questions about our process for reviewing and merging connectors?
I just have a question about this governance. So in the Discord group of what's it called? So governance. So what you guys make a proposal and then the community votes, or anyone can make a proposal, or
Yes.
How does this governance process go?
Yeah, great question. So to be perfectly honest, we're still trying to figure out a lot of this out. But overall, I think initially we'll be the ones creating the proposals for people to vote on. And then over time, we want to then start opening up that ability. But the reason we want to make it we want to control that ability for now is just make sure the questions we're proposing are ones that we feel like the community are able to answer, without kind of having a lot of context. And they're also kind of it's more like bite size in a way to make sure we know what governance entails before we kind of fully embrace it. So the other big change with the governance is in the first time we did it on Discord, and it kind of became kind of controversial because people could create fake accounts, and there were concerns about bot voting. So in the second iteration, we are building it into Hummingbot Miner, and so essentially you'll have to basically, the number of votes you get is based on your activity in terms of how much liquidity mining you did in Hummingbot Miner. Now that has another set of challenges, because now that restricts how many people can participate. But overall, we think that restricting who can vote is better than allowing anyone to kind of arbitrarily create a Discord account and vote. So I think we're going to try it this other way for this time, and then hopefully learn from this experience and change it and improve it in the next time we do it. But overall, I would say governance is it's something that's really new for us. But it's something we want to do because we want to let the community really decide what we do with Hummingbot. But it's kind of we're just trying to take a very staged approach.
Okay, thanks.
So overall, yeah, we're aware that there's lots of kind of connector pull requests outstanding, and yeah, we're trying to like, it's overall, we're trying to do our best to get them supported and merge in, you know, without kind of like, and still protecting our ability to, you know, add new stuff to Hummingbot. The other thing I will call it is, so one thing we're going to add as part of this next release is an indicator, a status indicator for connectors. And it'll probably some type of like red, yellow, green type of status. And so what that means is, as of every release, we're going to look at all the connectors and then mark them as status green, which means they're working well. You know, there aren't that many issues with them. Most people are, you know, able to run every strategy on that connector. So I think the Bitfinex, our current Bitfinex connector, I would put in that green category. And then there'll be a yellow category, where yellow is kind of like a connector it's working, but there might be some issues that people have reported, or it might be a new connector that we just recently, you know, started supporting, and there might be some issues that people are still experiencing with that connector. So, for instance, the loop ring connector that we'll merge in terms of in this release, we'll probably mark as yellow because it's very new. And then finally, there's a red status, which means the connector is just broken and doesn't work. So an example might be, I think right now we still have the Dolomite connector, which is a decentralized exchange that, and I'm not sure how well that connector is working now. So that'll be an example of a red connector. And the way that these statuses will be indicated is they won't block people from using them. However, when users kind of like, you know, in the client, when the users connect to an exchange or when they import a configuration file, if one of the connectors is either yellow or red, there will be a warning message in the client shown to the user. So so overall, what we're trying to do there is kind of like, it set a standard for like what a connector is, especially the ones that have already been merged in, to communicate to users which ones are working well that they can rely on, and which ones might be kind of like have some issues that might prevent them from kind of like, you know, implementing a strategy or you know, actually, you know, or it might actually lose them money if there's like something that's not working on that connector. And the other reason we're doing that is because we're kind of gradually moving to a model where external parties are earning fees for building and maintaining connectors. This is something that we've already kind of experimented for a little bit already. We did some Gitcoin bounties at the start of this year. And I think this is something that we're going to expand in the next few months. And basically what we're going to do is kind of like create a program where external firms can earn like a bounty for building connector, but they can also earn a bounty for maintaining connectors. So and those parties, and for us, will be responsible primarily for kind of testing and you know, setting the architecture for what connectors look like. But ideally, you know, we're also outsourcing the development process and also the maintenance process to other firms. So this is a pretty big change, which is why we're trying to take it one step at a time, by first kind of adding the status indicator into the connector code base, and then kind of developing the process that allows external parties to then kind of work with us to support connectors. But overall, if anyone on the call is interested in that effort, I would say please, you know, please let us know on Discord if you have any questions. But also, I think like we should announce something around this in about 2 weeks after we kind of, you know, flesh out the governance process and also this ticket that allows us to set connector status. So yeah, so those are basically the main tasks that we're working on. The next release is primarily working on protocol connectors for Balancer, Terra, and Celo, and then also kind of adding in like a few smaller stories related to like connector status and then also we're going to work on the Binance US connector and the Ocx connector during this next release. I want to open up the floor for Q&A now. Yeah, if you guys have any questions that you want to ask, please put them on the chat or ask them now. Okay, all right. Well, I'm glad to see that we have no questions.
Oh, we have one.
We have one
Oh,
question.
we do. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, 1 second. I didn't see the Q&A.
On the chat.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, so the question is from Kosi. Can you give us an update on derivative connectors? Yes. Oh, yes. That's actually that's a great question, and thanks for the reminder. This is actually something that I didn't mention yet. So there is an ongoing work that our engineer Victor is working on, and he's working on the Binance Futures exchange. So we are going to support Binance Futures as our first derivative exchange. And so there should be essentially a template connector that other people can use to develop other derivatives connectors. What we're trying to do is, because there are many different types of derivatives, we are going to support the perpetual type first. And that's because, one of the big differences between derivative and spot is that derivative, there's all kinds of different ones. So there are many differences between how futures, margin trading, and others work. So what we've chosen to do is support just the perpetuals type on Binance Futures. So we'll be releasing a Binance Futures connector. As of now, we are planning to have it in the next release, but I think it'll be kind of more like a prototype initially. So, but I think after that, then people can then copy it and work on similar connectors. So next question is from Peter. Do you plan any support for Xerox DEX connectors? I know there's a Xerox the radar relay connector, but the DEX not function. Yeah, that's a great question. So to be honest, initially we basically supported Xerox, and then it's kind of like, I think they kind of like started focusing on Xerox Mesh and Matcha, and whereas we started focusing more on kind of centralized exchanges and just building out connectors of all centralized exchanges. So we do want to support Xerox, but I would say I think that it would be easier to actually support Xerox Mesh first instead of doing radar relay. So it's kind of like Xerox is kind of really focusing on Matcha, and Matcha, the front end exchange, uses a mesh network as a backend. So I think that instead of kind of like building a kind of quote connector to radar relay, which is just an interface, it's actually better to build an integration that allows someone to post and create orders on Xerox Mesh. Now that's something that I think is a bit more complicated. And to be honest, we should actually talk to the Xerox team and to see if that's a direction they want to support. I think after we have the new protocol connectors in the next release, it'll be easier to do that, because this like kind of like gateway API that we're working on is essentially kind of like a bridge between Hummingbot and any other kind of like any kind of like JavaScript API. So I'm pretty sure that the Xerox Mesh, like their JavaScript client, is probably something that we can integrate into Hummingbot. But I think it'll be easier to do that work after we kind of release the new version of Hummingbot and the next version that has this like gateway API component that allows it to talk to different interfaces. Yeah, can you talk more about the features of AMM support? Yeah, so yes, so our AMM kind of features are pretty limited right now, and they'll actually be it'll be very similar to the Celo ARB strategy. So if you guys have tried the Celo ARB strategy, it's a special strategy that we released in about 3 versions ago. And that strategy allows you to arbitrage between an order book exchange and the AMM on the Celo blockchain. And because AMMs are very simple, you can't post any orders. All you can do is basically fetch the prices, and then and then do a trade. So essentially, be a taker. So you can't really be a maker on an AMM. The main kind of like feature we're supporting right now is the ability to get the price from the AMM and then just do a trade on the AMM. So essentially, our AMM connector is kind of like a very simple, stripped down version of our normal order book connector. And so in the new version of Hummingbot, the next version, there'll be a strategy called AMM ARB. And AMM ARB, you can basically input a AMM on one side, so either Celo or Balancer or Terra. And then on the other side, you can enter in another exchange, so Binance or Huobi or another exchange like that. And then you can specify 2 trading pairs, one on either side, and then essentially run a simple arbitrage strategy between them. So on the AMM side, what we're doing is essentially it's just fetching the price from that exchange and then doing a trade on that exchange. So it's actually much simpler than our normal connectors. The hard part I think about AMM is really about it's because they're protocols. There's a lot of like kind of architectural work we're doing with Hummingbot to be able to access those protocols. So yeah, those are all the questions. I would say like I'm also happy to unmute people if you guys want to actually just ask questions directly. So I'm actually not sure if you can unmute yourselves, but if you can, also feel free to ask questions there. But if not, we'll probably just end the call now, unless someone has more questions. Okay, so I think it's pretty much about it. So let's end the call here. And finally, as a housekeeping note, we are going to record all these calls, and so we'll post them on YouTube in about a day or so. And one final question is, for this call, are there any changes that you guys want us to make for the future version of this call? Because this is only our 2nd time doing it, so we want to make sure that we're constantly improving. Okay, well then, yeah, we'll probably just stick to the same format next time then. Just kind of going through what's new in every release, going over kind of like rather informally the changes we're doing in the next release and taking questions. All right, well, thanks everyone, and we'll see you next month. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, no more questions. Thanks. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.